Hi everybody, welcome back and Happy New Year. I hope 2025 has been a kind year to you. It certainly hadn't with me, but I do consider it a very successful year in terms of my creativity. I thought I hadn't actually made that many spacey projects. At first I could only think of maybe like 2 or 3 things that I had made, but actually when I had jotted them all down I realised I made quite a few things. So today I'm just going to share a couple of those with you in hopes that maybe I could inspire you to blend your interests in space and astronomy with anything that you find creative. We'll start in chronological order, starting with the jumper that I am wearing currently. This is the Spiracle or Spiral sweater by Vedisjonsdottir. It's your very typical traditional lopapeyser, which is basically the traditional Icelandic sweater. I say traditional, it's been a tradition for I think only like 50 years or so. It's a very new thing, but it was really quite a big focus when it came to Iceland's independence and sort of trying to regain their own sort of sense of self. So it's quite an important jumper, and so yeah, I chose this pattern mainly because I really like spirals. They kind of remind me of the phase spiral of the Milky Way, and this pattern really caught my attention for that reason alone. I also really like Letlopi and Lopapeyser. I think they fit me really well, so that was also a factor as well. So this sweater was made using, of course, Letlopi, as I had just mentioned. The pattern actually calls for Alafoslopi, so that is the chunkier version of this. But my body just really doesn't like chunky yarns, I find, because I've got quite a wide rib cage. It can just hang really bulkily, if you know what I mean. It doesn't hang as nicely. So for that reason, I sized up a couple sizes and then just changed it to Letlopi, which is like a DK to worsted weight yarn, so it's a little bit thinner, but it works really well for my body. So there are 4 colours that I knit it with. I think some of the models use 3 colours only, but I added an extra one just for the fun of it. So the first colour is a pine green heather, which is a really nice sort of true green colour, so it's not like a sea green that people call green, which grinds my gears. But yeah, it's a beautiful, like very lush green with sort of streaks of, I'd say probably like some lime green, like lime green, like really yellow bright green. And overall it gives a really nice heathered look, which I love in my yarns. For me, heathered yarns are like the best coloured yarns in my opinion. The top yarn isn't actually the same pine green heather, it's actually a lighter colour called lime, which is spelled Lyme as opposed to Lime, but it has the same kind of tonal heathered look, which I think complements it really well. In fact, all of these colours are heathered. The pink, I think, is just called pink heather, although I've seen some places list it as like fuchsia heather or something like that, so it might be just a difference in translation, but it is quite a nice bright pink that really pops out, in my opinion, about among the pine green heather background. And of course the white is just ash, which is just a very light parchment white with just little streaks of dark grey, or just grey. Dark grey is black, or maybe it doesn't. Never mind. I think the fit for this on me is really, really good. I think it might just be a little bit long. It does balloon a little bit out at the hips, but apart from that, I think the fit's great. It fits me really nicely, so I have no complaints really. Another feature about this, which was quite new to me, was the quarter zip as well. I'd never done steeking before, so the way that you knit it is you knit it in the round, you add an extra 2 stitches in the middle, and those stitches are just going to then be cut right in the middle of them, and then you kind of just sew them back and attach the zip as you're doing so. So I had never done steeking in this way before, and I felt quite nervous doing so. But knowing Letlopi, so this yarn, it's quite grippy, so it's honestly the perfect yarn for steeking, because the threads won't really come undone. So I think I did a really good job at that. I'm really happy it didn't unravel. I had done steeking one time before, but that was kind of to make tassels for a scarf that I was knitting in the round. So you kind of tie the yarns together in big bunches to create the tassel, so you don't really have to worry about it unraveling in any way in the end. So that one, I guess, it's technically steeking, but it's not true steeking. This was true steeking, and yeah, I was really happy. I learned something new, and I've been wearing this like a bunch over the course of the year. I have realised that the sunlight is slowly inching towards me, so I might have to start moving over closer to the left. But moving on, the next pattern I made was another sweater. This one is pretty much exactly the same as this one, but there are some quite big differences. So this is also the Spirak sweater, but it is also a mix of my own design as well. There are some quite big changes, as you can probably already see. Mostly the colour, the design, the galaxy design, and also the neckline. It's no longer a quarter zip. But yeah, the main changes I made is that, well, the body and the sleeves are all knit exactly the same. However, as we get to the spirals, rather than doing the one-arm spirals that I had done with the green sweater that I'm wearing right now, I changed the design over to a two-armed barred spiral, which closely reflects your typical Grand Design Galaxy, basically. So I wanted to add a little bit more of a spacey spin to it. I think they turned out really well. These spirals actually feature two colours. So the bar is actually knit with the ash, which is the same as this accent colour, the white one. But the spirals themselves are knit in the blue colour, which is featured around the neckline over here. So for a little portion of it, so only like 2 rows, I had to do 3 colour work, which wasn't fun, but given that it was only 2 rows, was definitely manageable. In terms of the colours, I think the name of these colours actually really work well for the design that I had made. So this black colour is called Galaxy, and it's absolutely stunning. It's basically a black base, like almost like a bluey black base, but then the heathered tones that are sort of stranded throughout the black are basically a rainbow. So you've got a lot of green, a lot of yellow, a bit of pink, and quite a lot of purple as well. So it's kind of like a black rainbowy heathered yarn, which honestly, it was so amazing online when I was purchasing it, and it looks even better in person. The other accent colour, this blue one, is called Milky Way, and this is basically the same kind of heathered shade as, well, heathered tone as the Galaxy. You've got the blue background, but all the tonal little extra strands are basically the same colour as this, in a way. They complement each other perfectly, in my opinion. And then for the white, you've also just got ash. That was just some spare yarn that I had used up from this sweater. I did change the length of this. I shortened it just by an extra inch because this one was just a little bit too long. And I think overall this fits me really, really well. I love this sweater so much that I wore it even as we were going through a heat wave. So that is a good testament to how much I love the sweater, and also a little bit to my insanity as well. Now the next project that I made, I don't actually have it on me. It's in the office at the moment, but it's actually a crochet project, and it was the phase spiral blanket that took me, I think, over 2 months to make, mainly because it is 4-ply yarn that I was working with, and I made basically a single coverlet, a single bed coverlet. So it's about 1 meter long by 2 meters, well, 2 meters long by 1 meter wide. So quite a big project to be making with 4-ply yarn. But, you know, I persevered, and I'm really happy with the result in the end. I'm quite happy that it's a thinner blanket as well. The pattern I drafted up and made myself is basically just one granny, well, not really a granny square, but one spiral square that you just make with different colours, and you make lots of them and join them together to form a blanket. So in terms of the actual pattern complexity, is that the word? Difficulty is the word I was looking for. In terms of the difficulty, it's actually quite simple. It's just quite repetitive. But it is fairly portable because you're only joining things up at the end. So it is very easy to do. I've also actually wrote up a proper free pattern that you can download on Ravelry, so I'll probably link that down in the description below. I also did make a video tutorial on how to actually make these spirals, and I'll probably link that in the card somewhere. I think in total I used 8 contrasting colours. So we had oh no, I didn't know, I used 9, sorry. We used the pinkish cerise colour, then red, orange, yellow, green, 2 blues, and then 2 purples. So that's 9 contrasting colours plus a cone of the black, so 10 colours in total. I think I used almost just about 1 50-gram ball of each of those colours, plus there was a little bit of a single, I think it was a half double crochet border around it. So I think in total I used, let me think, 450 grams for the colour plus almost a full 500 grams cone of the black. I'd say probably only 400 of those grams, 400 grams of that cone. So yeah, probably 850 to 900 grams total of the yarn. So it was quite a lot of yarn, but I think as far as blankets go, it's quite economical. The next project I made is my other only crochet project that I had made. This was the Gaia spacecraft. Now, I did make the full-scale one for my supervisor last year as a Christmas present, but I wanted to make a mini version for myself, just using the pattern, just with a tighter gauge to make it just a little bit smaller. So I ended up making this little Gaia over here. It only took about a day to make, so it was really quick to do. I mean, you're using chunky chenille yarn, so there's only so many stitches that you have to make. It's not that tedious. You basically start off by making the cone, and then you continue on to making the base. And then before you go on to make the disc and stuff, you embellish the top and add on the little, square. I was going to say eyes, but technically those are actually like windows that the light can enter through. But yeah, in this case, it's an eyes, and then, the mouth, the little smiley mouth. And then you go on to make the disc, embellish it with some little gold squares, and then cover it with the base as well. So it's a very quick project. It's quite nice to make as well. You can hang little Gaia up on your office or your shelf. And yeah, I quite like Gaia, the actual spacecraft, so it's quite nice to have a little replica of it on my desk, watching me, making sure that I'm actually doing my work. Okay, I've had to move slightly to the right because the sun is slowly catching up to me. But yeah, the next project that I want to talk about is another garment. This is, I think, the last garment that I made this year that has a spacey theme. The other two projects that I'm going to discuss are, I wouldn't consider them garments. I think they're more accessories. I'll talk about them in a second anyways. So the next pattern I want to show you is a knitting pattern that I made myself and self-drafted and graded up and did all of that fancy stuff, and that is the Barred Spiral Vest by myself, of course. This is a very sort of relaxed fit slip over. It's knit bottom up, which I know a lot of people are scared of doing, but I promise you it is absolutely fine. It's as easy as knitting it top down, in my opinion, if not probably a little bit easier. But yeah, it's knit bottom up. You knit it straight, so no shaping up until the armholes, where you then add in a very, very minor sort of slope, so allowing the shoulders to still be quite wide, giving it that more boxy, relaxed fit, where then you embellish it, you add on ribbing to the armholes and to the crew neck. In terms of the design, you've got basically some very unique cable patterns that I had drafted up myself that reflect sort of the barred spiral look, if you will. So that was kind of hence where the name came from, basically. And they're sort of framed in between the 2x2 ribbing panels and then some panels of stockinette. It comes in 6 sizes, so it goes from extra small up to 2XL. So size range-wise, that's about a 31-inch bust to, I think, about 57, 58-inch bust, if I remember correctly. So it's fairly size inclusive, although with my future patterns, I do want to just add on one size to the end, try and go up to 3XL, just to sort of maximize the kind of range of that it has, and try and just make it just all that more inclusive. But I think with the design that I had picked, so the cable panel stockinette, that made it a little bit more difficult, mainly because if you want things to be proportional, you really do need to be aware of the stitch count and where the stitches are placed. So you can't just make the stockinette panels much bigger and just expect it to look the same on everyone. I don't think that's good design, if you know what I mean. So what I had done is from extra small up to large. Well, actually it was small to large, and then I self-drafted the extra small later on. They're all drafted as one thing, and then extra large and 2XL are separately drafted right from scratch, and that allows me to then rejig the stitches where they need to be to keep the actual pattern proportional, which I think is really important for this kind of design. In terms of the yarn, I used Rowan Summerlight DK, so that's 100% cotton yarn. It's definitely not a DK though. It is probably, I would say, a sport weight, if anything. It's a little bit thicker than my typical 4-plies. I usually reach gauge with 3mm needles with your standard 4-ply, but for this I met a really nice gauge with 3.25mm needles, which is the recommended needles. When I had bought this yarn, I bought most of it 3 years ago, and then I didn't have enough for this vest, so I had to buy some more later on. And of course, now that the dye lots had changed, the colours looked very, very different, like completely different shades, if I'm going to be honest. So it did cause quite a lot of striping at the back panel, which I didn't like at all. So what I had done with this sweater is I had bleached it, I think maybe 5 times total, with undiluted bleach as well, so pure thick bleach, which lightens it all up to a nice bright yellow colour. The new dye lots actually lightened up into the pinkish colour, which was quite interesting. So you can see that the bases of the dyes had changed completely, so they used a completely different formula, not just like a bit more of each colour or whatever. It was actually a completely different formula, which I found really interesting. And then I dyed it to this dark green that you can see over here. And you can see that despite bleaching it 5 times, the yarn actually looks as if I had just bought it. It looks so nice. The shine is still there. It's not fuzzed out that much at all, to be honest, and I have worn it quite a few times as well. It really has really has a lot of longevity. Yeah, it's absolutely amazing, and honestly, that has only convinced me to, buy this yarn even more for future projects. So I'm really pleased with the yarn. I'm actually really amazed that it did manage to survive that, because I really didn't think it would. But yeah, that's all I can say about the yarn. It's really good. It's just a little bit thinner than they claim it is. So the final 2 projects are 2 pairs of socks. One that I gifted to my supervisor and one to my supervisor's wife. So I don't have them, of course. I've now gifted them, but I did take the initiative to film some B-roll of them, because I figured that I would gift them before I made this video. So the first pair was for my supervisor's wife. These are the Charm Stars socks by Shea Stitchery. I did cover this and the next pattern in my previous knitting video that I made that was sort of outlining a bunch of spacey themed knits that I recommend for Christmas gifts. So I did end up making 2 of those. But yeah, these are very simple cuff down socks that feature a lot of colour work on the cuff, and then it's kind of just your traditional reinforced heel type sock for the rest of it. On top of doing the colour work, I did tweak it just a little bit, and the main reason being that the colours that I had picked, although they are quite contrasting, they don't contrast as much as I would have liked, so I did have to just change 1 or 2 of the stars to make them a little bit more symmetrical and more of your typical star shape, and that kind of just helped the yarn a little bit with making the colour work pop a bit more. On top of that, I also added a very small bit of colour work around the toe and changed the toe so that it was the contrasting colour to try and balance out the colours a little bit more and just, I guess, make it a little bit more difficult for myself, because of course I would. But yeah, honestly, the pattern is so nicely structured. Like, it looks so professional, and the patterning is really simple to follow. The charts are really nice and, easy to follow as well. I have no complaints whatsoever. I'm honestly tempted to make those socks for myself, because it was really, really nice pattern. And yeah, I probably should make those socks for myself later on. I just need to find some yarn for that. The next pattern I made was the Himmelog half socks, or the Sky and Sea socks by Sita Steinmeier. And these were really unique in that they were a heel out construction. So I think Sita is probably the only person I've seen that has made this kind of sock construction before. There was somebody that has now released a free pattern that then cites Sita as sort of the main inspiration for their socks. But apart from those 2 people, those are the only people I've seen do heel out construction. And these were honestly really simple to knit. I thought that it would be really difficult, but actually the construction was very quick to do. So once you make the heel and then you do the color work around the body or the arch of the foot, you then graft parts of the heel together. So it basically looks like a big hexagon, and you graft two of those sides together, or no, you graft one of those sides, and then two of the sides you use to make the toe, and then two of the sides you use to make the heel. And actually what I found is that while the sock looks a little bit weird flat, I have to admit, the fit is actually amazing. Like, there is no unevenness in ease in any area of the sock, in my opinion. When my partner tried it on to make sure that it fit, it actually looked amazing. I was absolutely blown away, and the spiral design is just really pretty as well. It was really nice and quick to knit. It took a little bit longer than your average sock, and that's probably because it was a new construction for me. I had to take a little bit more time to sort of figure out how to do it, and the Kitchener stitch, you know, grafting things together. So that did add a little bit more time, but overall it was fairly quick to do. Thinking about it, I probably should make those socks for myself as well, but I need to buy more yarn for that, and I am trying to de-stash as much as possible and use what I already have. Which, granted, I don't have that much anymore. I tend to keep my stash quite conservative. Well, I thought it was quite excessive, and then I went onto Knitting YouTube and realised that actually I have a very conservative yarn stash, but I do prefer it to be as small as possible. But yeah, later on when I use up more yarn, I'll probably buy some nice green yarn to make those socks. Speaking of the yarn that I used for both of them was Coupe-Knit's Soxier in 4-ply, and it's a little bit dearer than your typical yarn. It's about twice as expensive where I am, but I actually think it is probably one of the best, if not the best, sock yarn that I have ever worked with, just ever. Like, I think it's better than the Malabrigo sock, and I've used that quite a lot. I think this one probably is my number one, and I'm definitely going to be buying more when I go around to knitting socks again in the future, because it was just absolutely amazing. It is a wool nylon blend like your typical sock yarn, but you really cannot tell that it is nylon-y at all. Like, with my Opal yarns, I do love them and I do use them quite a lot, but they do have a bit of that nylon sheen to them. But the Coupe-Knit's yarn just blows it out of the water. It is indetectable almost, like, it is that amazing. So honestly, when it comes to knitting more sock projects, I'm definitely going to be picking that yarn first. So yeah, that pretty much concludes all of these spacey themed projects that I've made. I keep thinking that I have made one more, but I just cannot remember. I don't think I have. It might just be my brain doing weird things. But yeah, that pretty much sums it up. And my throat is kind of hurting, so I kind of want to wrap this video up now and get to editing. But yeah, I hope this might have inspired you to combine your own interests in space with, you know, your other creative endeavours as well, because I think it's one of the highlights of my own creative, you know, my own craft, basically, to be able to make it as multidisciplinary as possible and to combine a lot of aspects of my own self and my own interests. So I hope maybe this can inspire you to do the same. I hope 2026 is a good year for you. In my next video, we're going to be talking about some very unique stars that I have been reading up on lately. So I'll probably see you then.